Greetings and welcome once again. My name is Michael Timmons, and I am the author of the Like and War Saga and the Shards of the Coven series. I'm also the organizer for the Writer's Block Author Fair that happens here in Toledo, October 22nd in 2022. And today we are going to be discussing episode 4 of the Wheel of Time TV show called The Dragon Reborn. This episode in particular, well, before I start that, if you're enjoying this content, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you can get notified of all of my video releases when they happen. I try to do one at least every week. I've been doing an episode of the Wheel of Time weekly, and I usually also do some other videos about writing and book fairs and my books. At least once every week, but at least I'm doing a video every week that you can get notified about. So, back to what I was discussing. So, as I said, we are going to be talking about episode 4 of The Wheel of Time, The Dragon Reborn. I want to take a moment to also talk about my past videos and this video. I want everybody to understand that I did really enjoy this season of Wheel of Time. I thought it was a good season. I didn't think it was the best. There was a lot of changes that they made. Some I understood. Some made sense because I understand you have a budget, you have a time limit, and there was also COVID going on at this time. So I do get that there was a lot of decisions that they had to make, and I understand a good portion of those. Some decisions I didn't understand, and I still don't understand. Maybe they will clear up later on because they were trying to make a long-term goal for the decisions they made, and they would still keep within the framework of trying to adapt the novels. But as of right now, I didn't understand. And when I come across those, I know a lot of other videos, a lot of other people who've reviewed The Wheel of Time that were book fans. They try to be fair and be honest, which is what I'm trying to do, but they were also, in my opinion, a lot of times, they were just kind of like, well, it's a book adaptation, and, it doesn't matter. It worked really well what it is, but I'm sorry. I'm calling out what I see. If it doesn't work for me, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to let you know that it didn't work for me, but I'll let you know also what did work for me. So, let's get started. So, this episode starts with Gildan, and we see that the capital is in flames. We see people running, the soldiers are running, and clearly they're being chased by, as we find out, Logain and Blair. The actor that they picked for Logain, I really like. I think they really did a job. This, I think, I have heard a lot of people suggest that this cold open might have done better in the episode 1 as the cold open for episode 1, because the cold open for episode 1 with the Red Aja chasing the man who thought there was somebody with him, but turns out it was just the madness, and them attacking. It served a purpose to some extent, showing us that the Red Aja were going out. We didn't know who the Red Aja was at the time, but there was some of these women that were chasing men and were attacking them for using magic that they believed they shouldn't be using. It worked within that framework, but it wasn't the best cold open. If they use this, here we have some stakes. We have a man who is clearly using the one power, who has strength, and he's, as the armies were led into talk of this during when they spoke of the war in Gildan and the Wine Spring Inn. This would have preambled it, so we would have had some idea of what they were talking about. And it shows the power that the one power had, whereas in the first one you didn't really get an understanding of what was going on. Plus, it also shows the madness. So, we basically get Logain. He comes to Gildan. He's attacking with his armies. He basically tracks down the king of Gildan.
What does a crown mean to the dragon?
And they have this conversation where Logain says basically, hey, I'm the Dragon Reborn. I don't need your crown. What I need is allies, and these, the Aes Sedai should be standing with me, not fighting against me. And he has a moment here where the voices in his head.
Afraid the dragon will break.
They have a moment where the voices in his head, the madness, tell him that he should kill the king of Gildan. That he doesn't need them, doesn't need him. But here we have Logain, who has been affected by the madness, and he is able to turn aside the madness. Now, in the books, we never got any impression that Logain ever suffered from the taint at all. He gave no impression of being insane or crazy. So this is kind of an interesting take on it. I like it because it didn't really make sense to me that, given the age of Logain in the books, that he didn't suffer from some form of madness, even if it was slight. And maybe he did, but Robert Jordan didn't really tackle it at all. He just, he didn't. He just made it seem that Logain had magic, the one power, but then they judged him, so he no longer had it when we met him. So he gets an option to, the voices in his head tell him that he should kill the king of Gildan, but he goes against the madness. He's strong enough of a person to basically say, nope, you know what? I don't need to listen to my voices. I'm going to make a decision that I think I should make, which is great, because this foreshadows what's going to happen with Rand. He's going to be able to hear voices, especially for when the TV viewer sees this. We'll still have some fear for Rand, because obviously we know that he's had the madness. There's something going on with him. But also we'll have some hope, because clearly Logain was able to overcome the madness. So hopefully Rand will be as well. So he doesn't kill the king of Gildan. Now, the manifestation of the madness here, as I've heard them called from the Dusty Wheel, the Taint Puppets, which is pretty funny. Really well done, really visually stimulating. It's really hard to do voices in the head in a visual medium. I get that. So here we have this. I kind of wonder how they're going to portray Luz Theron in Rand's head when they start talking, if they're going to do something similar to this, or if they're going to do something different. This is also, I'm going to take this moment to talk about another thing that I dislike about adaptations. And maybe I'm wrong on this, because as a person who's read the books, and usually have read books regarding adaptation, with fantasy adaptations, a lot of times it seems to me that they view the audience at large as a group of idiots, like that they're not going to be able to get having these concepts thrown at them, that if Rand's madness manifests itself differently than Logain's visually, I think, which would make sense in my head, it makes sense that everybody has madness. Everybody's madness is different. Not everybody's madness is the same. And it's regarding the taint. So as we learn in the books, some people, they'll see fades everywhere, or they'll just get, revert to a child. There's different manifestations of the madness in the books. But my fear is, instead of going that route, they are going to dumb it down for the audience at large. So Rand's Luz Theron is going to look like this. Though they might not, because I'll take that back, because admittedly, the first guy, he actually saw a full-blown person and not this. So, yeah, you know what? I take that back. But they have done that in several things here, where I feel that some of the changes they have made, some of the dumbing down, like not discussing Sidine and Sidar, and not having the two halves of the magic. I not only do I feel like they're dumbing that down so that it's easier for people to understand, but also they're doing it because it's binary and they don't want it to appear binary because of whatever. So there are other instances where they've done that, and I don't think that they need to do that. You know, I mean, if you look at, Game of Thrones, they had a lot of things. They had a lot of house names. They had people, a lot of things that were going on. And I know this is not Game of Thrones, different style of show, but you can't. I don't think you should treat the audience like they're stupid. People can figure this out. And if they're enjoying the show, they're going to look it up. They're going to find out. They're going to check on these things. They're going to learn. And, that actually adds, in my opinion, and like I said, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, because I'm taking it from a book reader's perspective and not from a non-audience perspective. But I feel like that would enhance a little bit of people's enjoyment of the show if they can delve a little bit into it and maybe find out some things that they didn't quite get on the TV show, But like I said, maybe I'm wrong. All right, well, I've digressed. So he decides not to kill the King Galdan, and instead asks him to join him, and then we leave that point. And obviously, we know Logain has been captured because we saw that at the end of episode 3. The sisters had him. So we start this off with Nynaeve. She climbs a rise and looks out over the camp. The camp is really kind of cool because you have, like I said, once again, I get visual medium, show not tell. We have and honestly, I did not know this until just now, looking at this, but we have the camp separated. We have the green tents, because obviously there's lots of greens. Battle Aja, they were helpful in getting Logain, and we have the red Aja side. So they're separated. So we already have visually shown there are two sides of the camp. They're divided. So we've already created this opposing sides. One thing I didn't notice, and I just noticed now, is that you have 4 green tents and 1 big red tent. Because all the green sisters have their warders that stay with them. And some of them have romantic involvement with their warders, so obviously they have their individual tents. Whereas the red sisters, they don't have warders, they don't have romantic interludes with their warders, so they don't need the privacy. So they have 1 big tent. It's a nice little attention to detail. I like it. So we see several of the greens and their warders, which is really nice. Is everybody looks different. They have different ethnicities. We have different races. It's great. I love the diversity of all the sisters, because that's how it should be. There's lots of different countries, and all the sisters come from different countries. We also see different types of warders. We see a big burly man. We see an older man with some graying, which is great because obviously all the warders are different too, and they're all from different countries and they all different ages. It's the choices they made here. Great, I love it. Like I said, this episode itself is very solid. I'm not sure if it's my favorite one, but it's very solid. It's really good. But it does have some issues, and I will talk about that later as we go. So, take this moment to take a drink. We kind of see the Red Sisters trying to checking out Nynaeve on the rise there. And now I'm not sure why this is. I've heard discussed because obviously she can use the one power, and she's very strong. She's stronger than any previous Aes Sedai that anybody has encountered in hundreds of years. So in the books, obviously, the Aes Sedai can see someone who can use the power when they're close enough. Now, I don't know if they're really close enough here, but if they can see her power, then she would be like a big old sun. So, and that's maybe why they're checking her out the way that they are. Not sure. Then we have Karina. She heals Moraine of her wound, so we're no longer in fear for Moraine's life. She's been healed, although it did leave a scar. Now, I don't know if that scar, because clearly they focused in on this, I don't know if showing that scar means that to imply that Karina is not very strong in healing, or that the actual wound from a Trolloc blade is worse than a normal wound and doesn't heal completely. Not sure what they're saying there. It could be one or the other, because they do imply Karina has been weakened by holding back Logain. Well, they don't imply. They say it, actually. They straight out say it. So, here we have, this is one of the issues I have also with the show, and I get this might have been a money issue. This might have been a let's not confuse the audience. I'm not sure how much more it would have cost them to add color, because they did do it. They had concept. The company that did the weaves had concepts to have different weaves of different color, so they did actually create them. So I'm not sure why they decided not to use them. I think they would have enhanced the show, and I think people, because it was subtle coloring. It wasn't like bright, like flaring red or flaring green. It was subtle, just a subtle tint to the weaves. I think that would have, once again, created some interest in saying like, ooh, wait a minute, that weave, it looks almost like a reddish color, or that has a bluish or a yellow. So they would have been like, I wonder what that means. And as we learn, then later on they would have been like, they'd have that eureka moment when someone points it out, and they would be like, oh my god, that's right, I've been wondering about that. I think it would have enhanced the show. But like I said, maybe it was a money issue. I'm not sure. So healing Moraine really causes Karina to feel like drained. So she says, well, I'm drained because, you know, we're having a hard time holding Logain back. He's that strong. So Moraine wants to meet him. So they go to this cave, which is an interesting area. The cave, why is it they have this opening that's cut out here?
After your own heart, we crept into his camp and shielded him as his...
We meet Alana, and Leandrin, of course, is there, and they are holding the shield against Logain. And they're basically taking shifts, trying to keep her in it. We learn that Karina, Alana, and Leandrin are the only ones strong enough to hold the shield. So now we've learned that there are different levels of power for the Aes Sedai, which is nice. So it was a nice little drop of information there that really helps propel the story forward. So Karina is going to take the shield from Leandrin, but she's tired. So Moraine says, hey, I've healed enough. Let me do it. We see some tension between Leandrin and Moraine, just from some of the stuff that Leandrin says, implying that, you know, they clearly don't get along. So we have some antagonism between the red and the blue, which is, you know, shown quite clearly, but it's really good. So, then we see Lan and Stefan fighting. Now, I've heard a lot of people say something about his axes and how impractical they are, and I agree, they're very impractical. Especially how he fights with them, because he holds them up high instead of down low. So, which, I mean, I guess if you're doing close quarter fighting with them, like, so you're just, you know, like doing this instead of swinging them, I guess that wouldn't make sense. But then why would you use axes? You know, I mean, axes you should be swinging hard, and that's kind of how you use them. So I don't know. The whole, for a show that's done, has so much. What's the word I'm looking for? Basically, they really have a nuance for all the things that they do, with from clothing to just the stuff that they add in there. That is, it just adds a lot of, I guess, just nuance, the whole thing. That basically they're very good at having things make sense in the world that we live in here. And this, for a show that's really particular about how they show things, that seems like a really strange choice that they made. I guess they just wanted to have everybody kind of fighting with different stuff. You know, we have somebody using a bow, we have a couple of using swords. I think one of them uses like a pole axe or something like that. So I guess they just wanted a variety of weapons to show that these warriors use different things. But and it's fine. I'm okay with him having an axe or having axes, but the way he fights with them is not very practical. And then the way he has them on his hip with the blades out. I mean, unless you're running around with dull axes, it doesn't really would be very uncomfortable to walk, not cut yourself. We have a nice little exchange between Karina and Stefan here. Just a moment. Talking about Moraine, so we learn a little bit more about Moraine here, about how she just doesn't share with anybody, and it's a pretty humorous scene. It's a great scene between Stefan and I can't. Her name just dropped from my brain, but it's a great scene here because it shows their relationship, and it's just a nice, like, companionship that they share, which I really appreciated. So we show that the warder really cares about the Aes Sedai. So we have another, for now all we've had is Moraine and Lan, and we've kind of gotten their relationship, an example of their relationship between warder and Aes Sedai. Here we're getting another example of a relationship between warder and Aes Sedai that's slightly different, but still you can see he's protecting her, he cares about her protection, he wants her to rest. But they have almost like a closer friendship in some way, or at least a more visible one, and a more less stoic, I guess you could say. So
You worry more than you used to.
then from there we go to Perrin and Egwene with the Tinkers. This part is really kind of interesting because they're unsure about whether or not they can trust the Tinkers, although the Tinkers have just fed them and let them sleep there. So I'm not sure why he's not trusting them. Obviously, though, they've been through a lot, so I guess whatever. So here we have Perrin here, and what's interesting is that he's still dressed the way he wants to be dressed. But now Egwene's already started to take some of wear some of the clothing of the Tinkers. So you can see that she's already more accepting of different societies and different groups than Perrin is at this moment. So, which I think is pretty in line with Egwene as a character. So,
From the mountains of Bliss.
We're from Whitebridge. We got separated from a trading caravan.
Is that so?
So Aram, he's basically like, hey, you guys can come with us, or don't, whatever. But it's safer with us than traveling alone. I really like the Tinker's caravan at this moment. This is the painting's a little more subdued than I pictured it. I pictured more brighter colors, but you know what? If they've been traveling as long as they have, unless they keep painting their wagons over and over again, the colors are going to fade. That's just what paint does. So, I mean, while they're still bright and garish to some extent, this, obviously they faded a little bit. So I guess it's a little more realistic. But I like the shot of them. They have a wide shot of the whole caravan as the people are walking next to the wagons, and there's about 5 or 6 wagons that you see, and some of them are rounded, some of them are squarish. There are different types of wagons, the different colors. Just a great, really nicely done. Once again, like I said, their attention to detail here, really good. And so when they don't have attention to detail, it really kind of sticks out. But here we have a nice shot of that. So from there, we leave Egwene and Perrin, and we go to Tom, Matt, and Rand, as they are still fleeing the town because they know that the Fade was coming there. And they get to a farm where we have the Grimwalds. We see that Matt's horse seems unsteady, which, Matt, as we know, as he explained, he's a horse trader. His family was horse traders, so he should be good around horses, but for some reason, this horse is having an issue with him. And, of course, if you're paying attention, it's because he's carrying a dagger, and the horse can sense evil. So, Matt had this little exchange where Rand's like, hey, can we actually trust this Gleeman? Maybe, he did all these things just so that they could build trust between us, and instead he's planning on betraying them later. And Matt's like, that'd be really smart. Wow, that's, maybe there's hope for you yet, Rand, which is a nice little thing, like basically like, you're maybe not as gullible as you used to be, or what I used to think you were. So then we go back to Moraine, and they're talking about...
I always knew women couldn't see men's ways, but the experience itself.
And they drop the information that basically women cannot see men's weaves, although, once again, I don't know, so far... the way that they've handled the weaves, somebody pointed out to me that that they are keeping consistent, but I think there have been instances where people who should not have been able to see weaves could see weaves. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think they've been very consistent with who can see the weaves and who can't. But I like this, and so it's nice if they continue on this. Obviously, in the books, men can't see women's weaves, women can't see men's weaves. So only ones who have the power can actually see weaves. But like I said, it's been very kind of inconsistent in my mind, where people have been able to see weaves that should not have been able to see weaves. But maybe it's a POV thing, and they've been playing with, but I don't know, that whole scene with Rand and Dana in the room, we were in Rand's POV. We weren't in Dana's POV. So, or, honestly, maybe we weren't in either POV, but we were in the same type of POV when we saw Moraine in the Two Rivers using magic, using the one power, where we were basically an outside shot looking towards her, and we could see her weaves. There, we were an outside shot, we were looking at Rand, and we couldn't see his weaves. So, but once again, they were trying to hide the fact that he's had the one power, and I think that's what they were doing. They were using that, and in my impression, in my impression, they were doing that to hide the fact that he had the one power, so they could hide it further that he was the Dragon Reborn, and weren't being consistent in order to do that. But hey, that's my opinion, and that's how we go. So we have a nice little exchange between Alana and Moraine, talking about Logain and his power, and basically how
The end of this age is here.
talking about whether or not Logain might actually be the Dragon Reborn, and what happens if they gentle him. They could be basically dooming the human race to the Dark One, because if they happen to gentle the Dragon Reborn, what are they going to do? They can't fight the Dark One without the Dragon Reborn. So it lets us doubt what we think about who might be the Dragon Reborn, although, as we know, Dragon Reborn is around 20, and obviously Logain's a lot older, so as a viewer and a reader, we should both know he's not actually the dragon. So that was a moment where Logain tries to break the shield, but they're able to stop him.
Jenny. That was her name.
And they share the fact that they were novices together, or at least they were when Moraine was novice. Alana was there. It's nice. It shows a nice little friendship between them, which we don't really get from the books. So it was pretty good here. Then we switch to Nynaeve. She's sitting on a little cliff overlooking the camp, and we have Leandrin come and
I like your
I guess
brain.
try to tempt her.
It's Nene, is it? Sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. I can't quite place the accent.
And clearly doing some fishing. She's like, hey, I'm not sure if I said your name right because I can't quite catch your accent. And Nynaeve's like, that's because I haven't talked, so you couldn't have gotten my accent from anything, so you're trying to fish. I get you. And she's like, hey, you're clearly here because you want something. Answer my questions first, and maybe I'll tell you what you want. So I like this. This is more, up until now, I really didn't feel Nynaeve was Nynaeve. In the first few episodes, I guess the first one or the third one, I didn't, she just not seemed to be, to me, the character of Nynaeve the way I knew Nynaeve. And here we have a little bit more of somebody I really can get behind as being someone I see from the books as being Nynaeve. So,
How long have you known Maureen?
and she starts inquiring about Moraine, which Leandrin's just loving. She's like, oh, let me tell you all about that Moraine. But then from there we go to the Grimwald farm. Tom's like, hey, we'll wait till dark and we'll sleep in the barn, and then we'll leave and they'll never know we were there. And Brand's like, why don't we just knock on the door and ask for help? And they're like, I don't think that's a good idea.
Sneak into the barn, get out before sunrise.
Wouldn't it be easier to just ask?
Whoa! Looking here for a better rider.
Feed you for a better horse thief.
This mare's afraid of her own shadow.
But
Man who
then
gets suspicious of strangers in his woods.
somehow they get surprised by Mr. Grimwald. He's got a bow and arrow on them, and he's like, hey, what are you planning to rob me, basically? I don't trust you guys. And Tom sees that Matt goes for his dagger, and he's like, whoa, what the heck? Why is he being so ready to violence all of a sudden? It seems weird. But Rand steps in and he's like, hey, look, you don't want to kill us, and we don't want to kill you. We just need a place to sleep. And so he's like, okay, maybe that's fine. So he asks his wife and son, who happened to somehow also sneak up on the three of them and just suddenly be there, which, I don't know, it seemed very like unrealistic as to how they did. Then we go back to Nynaeve and Leandrin.
Six, really. They're nothing more than little spies who exaggerate their own importance.
And basically she's...
The Reds are any different. You protect the world from people who would misuse them.
Basically Leandrin is bad talking Moraine, which is, obviously Nynaeve doesn't have a problem with, but also she's like, are you really any different, essentially? And Leandrin says, and this is a little different than the Reds are in the book. He basically says, we're here to protect the world from those who misuse the power, even Aes Sedai, which is not how they are in the books. They actually just, for the most part, hunt they hunt men who use the one power, and not even misuse the one power. They just hunt men that use the one power, and that's it. They're not like the police of the power. So it's a little change. I will say it kind of adds a little more depth to the Aes Sedai, the Red Sisters. I'm okay with this change. I think it's fine. It's still in line with their basic tenets, even though it's different from the books, but it's good. It works. I'm fine with that.
That one's a...
So Lan shows up basically to rescue Nynaeve from Leandrin, though he's more subtle about it than that. But then we see Nynaeve's like, that woman's a snake, so, she already, even though Leandrin was all like, hey, let's be friends, we're very welcoming of people like you, come to our tent. Nynaeve didn't fall for it, which is nice. It shows some wisdom. So Lan invites her to the fire. It's basically as long as you don't toss me into it. So then we go back to Perrin and Egwene and the Tinkers. We have a point where Isla explains the way of the leaf and what the Tinkers do, which is really kind of nice. We get a nice understanding of them. The way she does it's really good. And basically, hey, if you've ever used a weapon, a sword, a bow, an axe, wink, wink, have you been happier because you used it? And of course, Perrin, who's just, a few days ago basically killed his wife with an axe, not very happy. So he kind of like, you know what? You're kind of right. I'm a little unhappy with that. So then we go back to Matt and Rand, and Matt suddenly has this little sickness, he feels sick, so he goes out and he coughs up this black ooze that looks very much like Mashadar from Shadar Logoth, which obviously that's kind of what it is. It's a visual way of showing the effects of the dagger on him, which, while kind of cool, I'm not sure I like. I guess if the fact that he's acting differently was too subtle for some people, this kind of will be like, a good indication that that's what's going on here. And of course, while he's out there sick, he meets
I'm sorry, Mama said
a little girl, which the captions say is Elsa, but it's not Elsa, it's Helga. So apparently they're going to use Elsa at some other point, I guess. But basically she comes out and gives him the bread and
you can take
gives him the Brigitte doll, which is kind of cool. A nice little nod to the book readers. Would have been nice to... This would have been a good spot to say, you can take Brigitte, who's one of the heroes of the Horde, and have Matt say like, oh, the Horn of Valere. It would have been nice. This would have been a good spot to actually throw in the Horn of Valere instead of at the very end of the season to say like, hey, here's the Horn of Valere, and everybody who watched the show had zero clue as to what the actual Horn of Valere is. So this would have been a nice place just to throw that in there. They could have taken an extra minute and just done that. But whatever. So while he's out there,
Or spent half his life.
we get Tom talking about Owen, and basically how Owen had the one power, and that the Red Sisters came and gentled him, and because he got gentled, he basically died, or ended his own life. And he said that basically he started acting a lot like the way Matt's been acting. So now we're kind of like, oh wait, maybe Matt has the one power. Maybe he's the Dragon Reborn.
Getting into trouble the outside.
Matt will tell me. He's not an idiot.
Neither was Owen. I'm a Gleeman. Don't you think I told him the story since he was a little boy? How at the end of the last age, the Dark One corrupted
So-
the one power.
Here we have the thing that we talk about how the dark. Tom gives a story about how basically the Dark One corrupted the one power,
So men couldn't
and that
use
said
it
men
without
couldn't
going
use it
bad.
without going mad. So now we have the fact that if men use that it was the Dark One that corrupted the one power, and that's why men go mad. And we also, Rand's also like, wow, you sure are so not a lot for a simple Gleeman. And so now we have an idea that Tom may be more than what he's led us to believe. So now we go back to Nynaeve, and they're at the camp, and we have a fire.
Tamer of horses.
We have this nice little story about how Lan was trying to tame a horse and got tossed into a trough, which lets everybody laugh, and we hear, one of the warriors call him Alan the Dragarin, which we don't know what that means yet, but we will find out later on. So, and this is, of course, is like, Nynaeve's like, ooh, what's that name? That's a fancy name.
Fancy name.
Now, I've heard a lot of people talk about how this fire scene is really nice because, we see polyamory, in the show here where it's not thrown in our face. It's not like, here's polyamory. It just looks natural and normal and just part of the world, which is great. I think that's wonderful. I think obviously polyamory was in the show or in the books. There obviously was plenty of times wars where Green Sisters were definitely implied that they were sleeping with their warders, if not one, maybe more than one. So the way this is handled should be the way this type of stuff, homosexuality, polyamory, and all that stuff, should be handled in every show. This was really nicely done. So often it's kind of like people are gay, people have polyamory, and it's just thrown in your face, and it's, they rub your nose in it a little bit, just like hey, like, this is normal. You should think this is normal. And instead of just letting it breathe, letting it just be in the moment. And this is the show that does it really well. I really appreciated it. And it doesn't seem awkward. It doesn't seem over-sexualized. It's just, hey, these people, they enjoy each other, and they spend time with each other, and they love each other. And yeah, there's more than one person involved in, more than two people involved in it. And some of them are, men with men. Some are men with women. And some are women with men. And it's okay. Nothing seems odd about it, which is great. Wonderfully done. Kudos. Here we get an explanation kind of how the water bond, what the water bond means, that basically that it's stronger than, wife and husband, it's stronger than father or child and parents, and it's a good explanation of the bond. So
I don't know.
now we go with Lan and Moraine, and they're talking about how Logain is very powerful, And, you know, Moraine is even starting to doubt herself, like maybe she's wrong, that maybe Logain could be the dragon, maybe she's been, you know, maybe all this whole quest that she's been on is wrong. And Lan's like, you know, the Dark One's not hunting Logain. The Dark One is hunting the Two Rivers folks. So those are the people that are our options, not this guy. You know, you were right. Don't doubt yourself, essentially. And he also says, you know, like, I shouldn't have drank. You always get emotional when I drink. So now we also know a little bit more about the Water Bond. That when he drinks, maybe she might get a little drunk. Which is a good nod to what happens in the books later on. And I hope they have a scene like that in the show between Elaine and Brigitte. But we will see whether or not they do that, because who knows what they're going to do with it. They're making lots of changes. So they also asked, you know, which I thought was interesting, is he as strong as Egwene? Not is he as strong as Nynaeve. So you kind of get the impression that maybe Moraine is leaning towards Egwene as being the possible dragon, or that, you know, that she's really strong, but or maybe that she's the strongest one of the group as far as one power, but not Nynaeve. So I don't know why they leave that out here. So now we go back to Egwene and Perrin at the Tinker's camp, and they're basically, Egwene's having a good time with Aram, and they're dancing, and, you know, we kind of learn a little bit about Ram. He's kind of doesn't really dig the way of the leaf, you know, he thinks it's kind of stupid. And Egwene, you see Egwene kind of like, well, you know, this is, you know, what you have is really special, and, you know, I think you really should appreciate it. So it was a nice, once again, showing Egwene as being a little bit more open to new ideas, which is very in line with Egwene. And then we have a nice little chat with Isla, I can't remember, I don't know how to say her name. And Perrin, where Isla talks about her daughter who got killed and murdered by people who just did it for sport, and she had a chance to pick up a spear and attack those people, but she didn't, and that she chose to be non-violent. That she has a really nice, really great line in here, is what greater revenge against violence than peace, which just really sums up the whole concept of being a tinker with the way of the leaf really well. It's a great line, and she does a great job performing it.
Greater revenge against violence than peace.
So,
Greater revenge against death.
what greater revenge against death than life? Perfect. Great. Awesomely said. But of course, you can still see that she's, you know, she's still devastated by the fact that her daughter's dead. Then we see Rand and Matt, and Rand has a nice friend moment where he's like, hey, you know, because he's beginning to wonder if maybe Matt might be the dragon reborn. And he basically says, you know, hey, I'm here for you, Matt. I will always be here. It's a nice, sweet moment. And then we have the dream sequence. So the dream sequence opens up. We see Perrin using a hammer against Layla. Like he's striking Layla with a hammer. It's hard to understand. Is he trying to... He's hitting her in the stomach, so it's like where she got killed, where he's hit her. So, and this is Rand's dream. So, as we know, Rand doesn't know that Perrin actually killed Layla and where he struck her. So, it's odd that we see this, but so it's obviously clearly some sort of vision dream, and you know, we can't tell if he's striking her because he's angry, or if he's striking her because he's doing it with a hammer this time. Maybe he's trying to fix her. It's not really explained, and I'm not really sure we know yet. It's not really well explained. I guess it's open to interpretation. Then we see Matt He's got blood on his hands, red hand, nice little nod there. And he's walking very like with determination somewhere. And it's clearly they're on the Grimwald farm. Although actually, no, I take that back. I think he's in the Two Rivers. Now that I'm looking, the buildings look like Two Rivers villages. So I think they're they're in the village green. But Matt's clearly heading somewhere, just ignoring Rand. We hear Egwene calling her, and we see him, and then we see who is Ishmael with the burning eyes, the burning mouth, grab her.
It's all right.
Rand, wakes up. Tom's there, and he's like, "Hey, I got you." You hear the horses and
Where's
the
Matt?
sheep bleeding, and they're like, "Where's Matt?" They don't know where he is, so they rush out, and they burst into the farm, which I'm not sure why they went to look for him in the farmhouse. I'm not sure, but they go in there, and they see that the Grimwalds have all been killed, slaughtered, and we see Matt in there, and Matt's just standing there, and we have no idea what's going on. But we also see we see a little bit of Mashdar kind of leaking out of his mouth, and it goes back in.
Grab him. Let's
And
get out of here now.
Matt holds up the dagger, and he points up in the balcony, and he's like, "I see you," which is really kind of creepy, but nice. And then we look up there, and
I see you.
that's when the Fade shows up. Tom, whips a dagger at the Fade disappears, and they're like, he's like, "Get out of here." And the Fade comes downstairs, and Tom starts fighting them, which this really nicely choreographed scene against Tom and the Fade. Really nicely done, really kind of cool. One of the better fight scenes in the show. Basically, Tom whips another dagger at him, but the Fade catches it, and we see Tom engage with the Fade as the Myrddraal, as Rand and Matt flee the farm. We see Helga lying on the ground; she's dead. And Matt's like, he's got all the feels because that was the person he talked to. But Rand's like, "Hey, we gotta go. Now you kind of leave you in some doubt as to whether Matt actually killed everybody or if it was the Fade. But Matt's dagger had no blood on it where the Fade's did, so clearly it was the Fade. But we're kind of given the impression that maybe it was Matt. Then they flee, and Matt drops the Bridget doll on the ground as they're fleeing, which was a nice little touch because Bridget obviously supposed to protect you and in your dreams, but now they dropped him, so now they're no longer protected. Then we go back to the camp of Nynaeve and Moraine, and we have this part where Landon is talking about basically, hey, there's no way we can keep shielding Logain for this whole trip. He's too powerful. We're too weakened. We really should just, gentle him right now. It's the best way to handle this. We can't do this. We can't keep doing this. He's gonna break free. He needs to be stopped. And kind of implies like, hey, you know what? We're not supposed to do it, but if he tries to escape, wink, wink, then we can gentle him. And of course, as we know, that's exactly what happens. But as we're sitting there, we go back to Nynaeve and Lan. They have this nice little moment where Lan's praying, which we never see in the books. He doesn't actually do any praying for Malkir or whatever. But it was a nice change. It added some depth to Lan's character. It gave us a little bit of information about about Malkir and where he's from. It was a nice little info dump. Which wasn't an info dump. And then we also have Nynaeve talk about this prayer that she knows from her parents, but she never understood it because it's the old tongue. Lan tells her what it means, which, you know, really kind of hits Nynaeve really well, because it's something that she's always wondered since she was a kid. So it's a really good moment that he was able to give her that information and help her have some closure, you know. And so they kind of have this thing where, you know, she's like, wow, you're not who I thought you were. I thought you were, you know, just Moraine's pet, essentially, that you just did what she told you and that was it. But I see there's a lot more to you. And it's like, well, you know what, you're exactly what I thought you were. But before he could actually explain what he thought she was, we hear the words that have been set off because Logain's army is there.
Times with the seven towers in Althea.
So when the words go off and everybody, you know, gets ready for the army, we see some arrows come in, which Dana's nicely, like Nynaeve gets behind Lan, and then Alana uses the one power to stop the arrows, which arrows don't really go that slow. It takes her a long time to actually get their spell done and do it. But, you know, visually, it's pretty cool. I'll give it that. So she stops the arrows up in the air, and I like how they show that how the one power is used in this manner. It's really cool. And then
No army can get past 7 full sisters.
so then what? Basically, as the army attacks, that's when Logain busts out of the shield. So, kind of giving the impression that, you know, maybe he could have done it at any time, or here's a theory: Liandrin weakened the shield so Logain would be able to try to escape, so they could gentle him. Just a thought. I think we might find out later that that's actually the case.
We need to get to the cave.
So, of course, since Stefan is bonded to Karina, I remember her name finally, he senses that she's been hurt and knows that Logain is trying to escape. So he's like, hey, let's get back to the cave. But of course, there's army, which for some reason, I don't know why. This is one of those things that, like I said, for a show that has such attention to detail, this part doesn't make a whole lot of sense. They flee from the camp to get to the cave, but apparently, instead of making the camp near the cave, it's quite a distance away. It's because they have to run through the forest to get to the cave. Quite a while. And we see the army chasing them. We see some really good show of how the one power works. Some of it is a little bit over the top and more theatrical, more showy than it would have been if they had used it the way it should have been used, or the way it would have been used. But TV, you know. So I guess it's okay. So this fight scene is, I don't know, it's not really well done. I can't really put my finger on why it seems so poorly done. I guess maybe this was a restriction because of COVID. They couldn't have as many people involved as they should have, but I mean, it did feel very chaotic, and, you know, in that sense, it was a good portrayal of a battle, but I I don't know. I can't put my finger on it, but why the battle just seemed a little, like, I don't know. It just didn't seem very well done. And like I said, maybe there was restrictions involved, and they did the best that they could. I'm not sure. So, I mean, like I said, it's not horrible, but it's not great. I think they could have done a better job. So we go from the battle, we go to Moraine entering the cave, and she has this nice discussion with Logain, who obviously is out of the cage, and
The others will be here soon, so we don't have much time to talk.
it's interesting. There's like she tries to talk instead of attack, which still is kind of cool. And she's like, why should I believe that you're the Dragon Reborn? He's like, hey, I hear voices of my ancestors telling me I'm the Dragon Reborn. How would I have past lives if I wasn't the Dragon Reborn? And of course, she knows that he's not the Dragon Reborn, so she's like, you're hearing voices because you're cuckoo. That's basically what's going on here. But she's also doing this as kind of a delaying tactic, giving the other sisters time to recover. And so,
The Dragon Reborn.
so then Karina and Leandrin, they recover, and they go to put a shield back on Logain, and while he's being shielded, he decides to attack Karina, throws up protection for her sisters, but in doing so, she gets hit by a projectile of the one power. And of course, Leandrin and Moraine can't help her because they're needed to shield Logain. And so Karina basically dies. Now, with Karina dying, we have Stefan. Obviously, completely and totally feels it. And we know as book readers that this means he's going to be in a berserker rage. And his goal is to basically kill whoever killed Karina, and that's his only goal. So he runs to the cave, and he tries to attack Logain. And at first, I had a problem with this scene because I'm like, how? Well, no, you know what? I take it back. I still have a little bit of problem with the scene, and I'll tell you why. I got to close up here. I wish I could show it to you, but I can't. So we have this scene, basically, Stefan's attacking Logain, and he's trying to strike at him with his axes. Now, Logain uses his power to stop the axes from hitting him. So his power comes up. Now, he has a shield coming over him, or it is in the books, obviously they have shields that block somebody from using the one power, but then they also can hold people with weaves of air to prevent them from moving. Now, the shield, obviously, in the books, it's only basically, it's almost internally. It goes within the person and cuts them off from the true powers. It's not an outside shield, but obviously, TV, they need to make it visual. That's fine. The shield is to prevent the one power from being used. Here, it looks like they're using it to prevent the one power from being used outside of the shield. Stefan is attacking Logain. His axe is going through the shield, and it looks like it is affected by the shield, but the shield itself is not a weave that actually should affect weapons. It just affect the one power. So, and by breaking the barrier of the shield. And like I said, maybe this is just to visualize it so that the audience knows, can get some kind of clue. But the problem is that you're changing the rules of how this magic works, and you are risking not being consistent later on. So, because this is not how it should work, but because you've changed it for the medium, you're risking, causing yourself problems later on. So Logan uses the one power because the axes have penetrated the shield, which again, I don't see how that matters, but whatever. It's penetrated the shield, so he's using it. He's corrupting the axes and breaking and shattering the axes because his magic can't actually go outside the shield, but it can affect the axe pieces. So the axes shatter into pieces, and the pieces fly out. Moraine is struck in the stomach by the shaft of the haft of one of the axes. It goes through her stomach. I remember I said that. Leandrin is struck in the chest with a piece. A piece flies and clearly it hits a bunch of people, but it flies and slices Lan's neck. And so everybody's basically down and out, except for Nynaeve. She didn't get hit. She's like the only person that didn't get struck. Now, part of this has to do with the fact that Lan was essentially running in front of her, so kind of shielding her, which is a nice touch. But also, there were other people that were in front of other people, so that got struck. I don't know. Anyways. TV. Right? These things happen. So, Lan is struck in the throat, and he's basically bleeding out. So Nynaeve goes over, and she's like, she is distraught by the fact that Lan is hurt. So she goes over, and she's like, no, no, no. And she gets angry, which is nice because she doesn't want to lose Lan, which, as we know as book readers, kind of overcomes her block. Now I know this scene was loved by many people. They love this scene. There was a lot of people who were like, wow, cool, awesome, especially non-book readers. I don't like this scene. I really don't. It doesn't make a lick of sense to me. So she basically uses the one power to save Lan, but because she's super powerful, the weaves burst out of her, which is fine to some extent, except, she's not directing the weaves. She has no control over them at this point. She doesn't know what she's doing, and which would be okay if she was healing one person. Like, if she was just healing with Lan at this moment, and this power, exploded out of her, and she basically brought him back from near death, I would have been fine with it. I get it, less dramatic, not as big of an explosion, but it would have made more sense to me. Right now, we have this huge explosion of power from Nynaeve, which, once again, for some reason, Logain can see. Now, I know that it's kind of been implied that there was a burst of visual energy that came from her when she used all that much power, and that's why Logain was shielding his eyes. To me, that's kind of like they did it, and they were like, we need to find up a reason to explain how that's possible. Yeah, it was light. It was so powerful, they just made light. No, that's not how this works. So, she goes to use power, and, I don't know, her hair, like she's struck by lightning, her hair goes whoosh, all crazy, and up in the air, like, like I said, I get it. Visually, it's stunning. And for those who have not read the books, it made quite of impression. But that's not how this magic works. That's not what the one power does. It does not make your hair stand on end. It doesn't. If she's using spirit, for like she would be for the most part for healing, although she does tend to use all the weaves. Even if she's using all the weaves are not directed from out. You know, how to explain? They wouldn't create any physical effect on her. It's not how it works. It's not what it does. Like I said, but looking clearly shields his eyes, so you know it's so bright. The effect that basically he has to shield his eyes, so either he can see her power of the one power, or he can. The weaves are creating light. I don't even know. It doesn't even, like I said, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense with anything else that we know from the show, even visually, of how this would work. So, once again, they are defying the rules that they have set for themselves. They're breaking them, and I don't. It's done for drama, and it doesn't make sense. So she sends out all these weaves to heal people. Now, she heals Moraine, so her wound on her stomach closes. However, the haft of the axe that was literally buried in her stomach is now no longer visible or anywhere to be seen. It's just gone. How? Where did that go? It was literally buried in her stomach. You know, and then it just totally disappears. So she heals Moraine, she heals Landon's cut, and obviously, mostly she heals Lan. Now, I had this pointed out to me, I didn't realize this, but even the blood that had poured out of Lan's body went back in his body. What? Why? How? That blood is not, no. You wouldn't even want that blood back in your body. It's been on the dirt. It's been laying in sand. It's dirty. No. No. That's not how this works. I guess maybe I'm nitpicky. I'm sorry if I'm being nitpicky, but it just, those type of things, like I said, it was attention to detail. Like I said, I didn't even notice it the first time. Somebody else pointed it out to me. And I've seen this episode like 3 times. And I never saw it. I had someone that pointed it out to me. Never saw it. So, but apparently, and I see it now, all that blood is gone. Now everybody, of course, is in shock, and now Logain is second guessing himself. He's like, wow, she's like the raging sun. She's super powerful. Maybe I'm not the Dragon Reborn. But of course, this goes back to episode 1, where we can actually believe that the Dragon Reborn can be male or female, which we know he can't be. The Dragon Reborn is going to be male. It has to be male. Men are the only ones that grow insane from using the one power. So that's just how it works. It's the male half of the one power, true source, or the one power that is corrupted, and that is what causes the person to go insane. And that is why, if the Dragon Reborn, who's the most powerful channel in the world, uses the one power with the corruption, that he will go mad and will once again destroy the world, break the world. That is the fear. That's the possibility. Nynaeve cannot be the Dragon Reborn. She will not go insane from using the one power. She cannot be prophesized to destroy the world because she will not suffer the taint or the corruption, whatever you want to call it. Just not going to happen. So, it's just, like I said, I don't understand. So then, all the women, basically, Leandrin's like, hey, link with me, we need to take care of this now. He's already killed Karina, you know, he's super powerful. We're going to take care of this now. We're going to gentle him right now. I'm not a big fan of the linking visual. I get that they needed some... Actually, you know what? I don't even get that. I would say I get the fact that they needed some sort of indication that they were linking, and so that's what they chose. But I think that if we just saw the one power leave one of them and go into Leandrin, or like find some way to show the one power connect and strengthen, that would have been enough instead of this whole little, you know, hand over hand, wrist over wrist thing. It was a bad choice. I'm not gonna make any apologies. Bad choice. So, they gentle Logain, and which, you know, it was pretty dramatic. I liked it for the most part. You see it kind of just escape from his body, get pulled out of his body. I don't understand why he was floating at that moment. Like I said, I guess once again, visual, but you know, she wasn't casting weaves of air to lift him up off the ground, unless she was, just to be dramatic, just being dramatic by it. There was no reason for it to happen. That's not how it works. Unless, like I said, unless she was doing it on purpose. But why would she waste her energy? I don't know. Just, like I said, I know I'm being nitpicky, but it's stuff like that. It just doesn't make sense. That I have issues with.
I'll fall on you, Logain, blah.
So we see it taken from him, and we see him cry. And that is how the episode ends. Like I said, all around this episode was really strong. I really like the interactions between the warders and the Aes Sedai in camp. I like the fact that they showed you that tension between the red and the blue. We show the tension between Landrin and Moraine. We get a lot of information delved out in a very good way. It's not dumped on us. It's filtered out through conversations. We learn a little bit about Lan. We learn a little bit about the Aes Sedai. We learn a little bit about the Bond. We learned about the Tinkers. We learn about the corruption, the taint, and what happens, and what the Red Aja will do. So we learned a lot of information. This was a good episode to really expound upon the world that we're in, and help us understand it a little bit more by also giving us some action. Something I didn't like, I did not like the battle in the forest. I thought that was not well done. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't really well done. The cold open, I think, should have been in episode 1, but the cold open itself was really good. The Nynaeve's use of her one power at the end to save everybody and its effects, I think we are creating a lot of inconsistencies within the use of one power and how it will get used later on, that it's going to be causing problems later on, because it just doesn't work the way that they're showing it. And there are things that happen later in later books, and that should happen in later episodes, that will, how they use it will be inconsistent with how they're using it now. Like I said, maybe they'll change it for that, but some of that stuff is fundamental and shouldn't be changed. So I don't know. I don't know how they're going to pull it out of their butt, but being in May, I guess they're going to. So those are my opinions. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Tell me what you think. Did you like this episode? Was it your favorite? I know a lot of people think that episode 4 was their favorite. I really liked episode 3. I think I liked episode 3 more than 4. But I'm not sure if, I'm not sure if episode 3 is my favorite either. But, yeah, let me know. Tell me what you think. Did you like this episode? What didn't you like? What do you think they did differently that they shouldn't have? Or what do you think that what changes did they make that you didn't like? I know a lot of this is completely different from the book, because most of this wasn't even in any of the books. So, we have the thing with Karina being killed and Stefan going crazy. Man at the end here with grief, which obviously takes full effects in episode 5. I'll discuss what I think about how that works, and whether or not I think it should have been in that episode, but we'll discuss that next time. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and please make a comment down below. Tell me what you thought. Tell me what you think of this episode. Tell me what you think of this video. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you agree with my opinion? Do you disagree with my opinion? I'd love to hear your thoughts. So, as I said, like and subscribe, make a comment, click on that notification bell, and join me next week as we'll discuss episode 5. All right? And have a great day.